Deuces in the backfield. Third down, Bixaman with the pitch back to Hall. Hall with a nice move, cuts it back against the grain. He's free at the 40-yard line, the 30. He's going to take it to the house.
Welcome back to ISPN.TV. We are through week number 9 of the high school football season, and all the games from last week, they got played despite the big snowstorm. In fact, our game on Thursday night between Golden and Green Mountain got postponed. A lot of the games out at the NAC did, but I know every game got underway, got finished. That means regular season in Class 5A is finished. It's over. It's on to the playoffs for 32 teams. We'll take a look at the brackets and some of our thoughts on 5A playoffs. But first, the 4A season not over, Marty. No. We still have another edition of our 4A Top 10 here at CET Sports, and let's unveil that right now. And you take a look at it. Greeley West, Pine Creek, Monarch. Only 3 undefeated teams left in Class 4A. And then the big game last week. Heritage knocking off Wheat Ridge, getting a little revenge from last year's regular season game. And that was a big win, 35-7 the final. So those two flip-flop, Heritage at 4, Wheat Ridge at 5.
You know, it's kind of funny how Heritage obviously been waiting for this contest after what happened last season. You know, their only blemish, at least in the regular season, to the Farmers. And obviously, Coach Greibel and Mitch Greibel, the quarterback, well game planned. And boy, Mitch, I mean, he just went lights out, right? Scored in, I think, every way possible, offensively, special teams, with a big interception return. And what a huge win for the Heritage Eagles. Definitely got to pay attention to them. They beat Wheat Ridge, who was undefeated, and the Eagles only lost to Columbine back when they did have a spawn and some big boys clicking.
Yeah, and that was the first game of the year. It was a game we had on CET. Columbine beats Heritage in a close contest. And I think Heritage kind of fell off some people's radar. Maybe weren't getting as much consideration as maybe they should have. Well, that's a huge win. It's a statement as we go into the 4A playoffs, which start a couple weeks from now. Heritage is for real. Meanwhile, that 22-game win streak for Wheat Ridge, gone. But they're still going to have another good opportunity to win a state championship. The rest of the top 10, saw a little movement there. Loveland, boy, I'll tell you what, we really like the Loveland Indians. They're going to get that number 2 seed out of the Northern League. Montrose at 8-1, Liberty at 8-1. Then we have Pueblo West, who hammered Fountain Ford Carson this past week. And then Longmont, another Northern team, back in the top 10. Durango falls down.
Yeah, Durango took the loss. Now, if you want to get back in or at least get a little more love from us, well, Durango takes on Montrose coming up this week. So maybe the Demons can win back some of our favor that way. Had to pop in Pueblo West, the knock on them with the Cyclones, just waiting for them to beat a quality opponent. Well, they did so this week in dropping the Trojan from Fountain Fort Carson, so we popped the Cyclones back in the top 10 there.
Yeah, and let's not forget the Cyclones won the state championship just 2 years ago. And again, they're at 7-2. Don't forget, coming up this week, we are going to have a 4A football game for you. It's Pueblo West and it's Rock Canyon. Rock Canyon just on the outside looking in as well. They sit at 7-2 as well. So couple of 7-2 teams on CET, Pueblo West and Rock Canyon coming up later on this week. Okay, well, the 4A season has one more week left in that regular season, but the 5A, they're done. Chas has released the field of 32, and we're not going to show you the entire field, but they've broken into regions this year, Marty. Let's take a look at the top 4 seeds in each of the regions, regions A, B, C, and D. And again, if 5A had the same kind of playoff format that 4A did, these would be these 16 teams.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, too. It's very easy to follow. I like the adjustments there on the part of Chassa, and you can see, you know, the top squads as expected, right? Mullen, Fort Collins, Fairview, and Pomona as we kind of go through them.
Yeah, absolutely, and Mullen obviously has been dominating. That's a fairly tough draw. I think that A region is pretty tough. You have Thunder Ridge, who's a darn good team, and then Chatfield, Cherry Creek, all in that A region. Of course, Mullen did knock off Cherry Creek earlier this year. Sam Stratton, will he be able to go in the 5A playoffs? That makes Chatfield that much more dangerous.
Yeah, well, if anything, regardless, we know Stratton. We've heard stories about him putting on his helmet. He's got his pads on, standing on the sidelines, really eager to go. Got to watch out for him. Certainly have a bright future ahead of him, so you have to play conservatively. But the rest of the Chargers, you know, they have been clearly affected by their big guy going down in these past few weeks. They all got to step up. The Chargers thought they had a magical season approaching. Stratton went down. Now they're going to have to battle away and see if they can get deep into the playoffs. I'm talking, it has to be total team play for those Chargers.
So you see Mullen gets the #1 overall seed. You see those seeds on the right. At B region, Fort Collins along with Arvada West, Mountain Vista, and Ponderosa. Tell you what, Arvada West and Fort Collins, those two teams could be interchangeable. If those two teams meet, it would be a great one. Fairview, Chaparral, Columbine, and Rangeview. Hey, Columbine without Danny Spahn, it's tough to tell how good the Rebels are going to fare coming up in the playoffs. And then, of course, that D region, Pomona, Highlands Ranch, Thomas Jefferson, and Rocky Mountain all in there. I don't know. It's tough to tell which region might be the toughest.
Yeah, you know what? When I look at Pomona, they got to watch out for Highlands Ranch. Clearly, Coach Gorman's squad's having a stellar season beyond any expectations. That's fair to say. Sophomore quarterback, they got that slot man. No one can figure out how to stop Hensley. So Pomona better pay attention if they end up eventually meeting the Falcons. Otherwise, you know, Fairview, careful with, you know, Columbine, still well coached. Chaparral, if they can play a little defense, they've got all the weapons in the world. So maybe in that C region, the Knights better pay attention if they do eventually meet the Wolverines.
All right, so that's a look at the top 4 seeds in each of the 4 regions. Marty and I kind of went through and kind of tried to pick what we thought would be the best first round game in each of the 4 regions. Let's show you what we think here. Region A, Chatfield, Cherry Creek should be a dandy.
Talked a little bit about the Chargers. They're a 9 seed, but we're going against Cherry Creek, people down on the Bruins this year, but they've been playing well lately. And Kane Coulter, he's out on the field despite the injury, and just on leadership alone, he's obviously had a little bit of impact. So again, the 9 seed Chatfield has to be careful with a 24 seed like the Bruins.
Region B, how about Regis? I'll tell you what, I know you love them. That's your sleeper team taking on Ponderosa, a team that's been in our top 10 a lot.
Marcus Walker, run game, and a very, very physical Raiders squad. Don't pay attention to that record at 5-4. They're going to beat people. Ponderosa just took another loss. They've been falling lately.
Region C, Rangeview and Grandview. That's 15 versus 18. And I know Grandview, a lot of people still think that they're a pretty darn good football team. But hey, Rangeview, I know they play in that Central Metro League, but Jonathan Matthews, he's one of the best running backs in the state that probably a lot of folks out there haven't heard much about. And then in Region D, Bear Creek and Highlands Ranch. That's Highlands Ranch, number 11 seeded. Man, they get to draw Bear Creek in the first round. That could be the worst draw out of any of the top 16 seeds.
Might change their Cinderella story. You heard me talking about Highlands Ranch and how things are just going so well for them. But Bear Creek, they're 4-5, but that is a great squad. We watched them polish Columbine using a very powerful running game. So they've got the skills. We know they usually have those players in the backfield. Lucas Lockett with the run game, and you know Thinnell can dish it around to guys like Brewington. If the big boys up front play well on the O-line, maybe they'll stop what things have been, you know, the way things have been going so well with Highlands Ranch. That's a good matchup.
So that's a look at what Class 5A has coming up. 32 teams all battling for a state championship. Don't forget, you can catch the 4A and the 5A state championships from Invesco Field right here on CET Sports. For Marty Cesario, I'm Brian Raw. Thanks for watching ISPN.TV.